Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Dragoborne demo deck. I got lots of wonderful feedback on our first impressions video. A lot of people talked to us about how there are in fact a lot of cards that interact by having being Dragocrossed with dice of a different color, and how there are in fact lots of incentives for multicolor decks, along with the fact that a lot of the cards in the demo deck are actually vanilla versions of cards that otherwise have abilities. In fact, a lot of them are. I mean, there are a couple that I still suspect are vanilla beaters, and I'll talk about them as we go. But, yeah, so there are apparently a bunch of cards that have interactions when they have a different color Dragocross dice. It still doesn't quite address the sheer flexibility that relying on a monocolor deck offers you, because you can plunk your strongest dice in front of your remaining forts. There are some cards in here that rely on having multiple dice or having very high rolls on dice, which are easier to achieve with a monocolor. But I'll talk about that later. Let's start with the dice here. These are the demo deck dice, and to my understanding, they're actually smaller than the ones that are going to come with the trial deck, and all of them have this dragon head on them, and they are the only thing that will be tournament legal at any Dragoborne tournament. So you'd want to have your hand on those. They said they're going to make them easy to get. They're going to come in the starter deck, which to my understanding is going to be roughly $13, $14. And they're going to be, you're going to get one of each color by buying a booster box, but I don't know if that's quite common enough, because here's the thing about dice, is that they are very easy to lose. And that's kind of my concern there. And the other thing about dice, like I said in my first impressions video, is you can use them for other things. So I imagine people would buy these cool dragon-headed dice if they just sold them wholesale. So hopefully we'll see some more of that. Anyway, the Dragoborne logo on the back of it's on this kind of parchment, this kind of stained parchment here. It says down here Bushiroad International, and it has the symbols of the 5 different colors. So they're sticking to 5 colors for now. We'll see how well they manage to do that. So the starter deck contains 18 different cards, and I also have 4 promo cards, and I'm going to go over all of them in order. They actually have their own set, which is DBDD. That would be a Dragoborne demo deck. A lot of them are vanilla versions of cards that will no doubt have abilities in the future. So we are going to start with Sunscale Dragon with illustration by Amin Naksui. Might as well talk about the artist a bit, since these are basically art variants of cards, meaning that as they are vanilla, we can see and appreciate more of the art. Sunscale Dragon is the most powerful card in the deck. Power 6, or cost 6, power 4, endurance 7. So it's obviously meant to stand in the way and block whatever tries to attack the fort it is standing in, especially the cards that have 6 attack that are going to be oh so important because they can break through any dice. Now, based on the power scale, I assume this thing is below the power scale, so I assume it must have an ability. It's actually kind of funny seeing it there just kind of lazily picking its teeth. It kind of strikes me as a dragon that would protect its horde. Up next, we have Bountiful Angel, illustrated by Aki Aishi. Now, Bountiful Angel is a card that I have since learned definitely has its own ability. The ability of the card is when you attack with 2 or more monsters in a turn, you draw a card. So the 3 for 3/3 seems to be the power curve for something to have a positive effect, such as Bountiful Angel. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird that a card that was named Bountiful Angel didn't have an effect. That just seemed off to me, but it's a nice chance to appreciate the art. Up next, card number 3, Logress Swiftblade, art by LaFemme. It is the one where we could not tell if it was a man or a woman. 3/1, it has an ability. This one actually has its ability. A lot of these cards actually do have abilities. In fact, I think the majority of them do. I'd have to double check. But Logress Swiftblade is that it cannot be blocked by creatures with 1 or less attack. And I assume that does not include dice, because those are called Dragoshield. And in battle, they're treated as a creature, but I assume that this guy would still have to get through, guy or girl, whichever it might be, or it, or whatever, would still have to break through the Dragoshield in order to get through. But a 3 attack for 2 cost is pretty good. That's better than the curve they have for Magic the Gathering. So this card, thanks to the fact that it can't just be simply chump blocked by something with 1 power, like Goblin Madcap, which we'll get into later, I think that will make it a fairly good card. Card number 4, art by Elegant, is Altain's Blessing. This is one of the cards that kind of really has that World of Warcraft vibe. That looks like a suit of World of Warcraft armor. If anybody knows what that's specifically looking like, it's very obviously Paladin Armor. And this is a spell card that relies on dice. For 1 cost, you can choose a creature and give it +2/+2 for the turn. And if you have a yellow dice in play that has the number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or 3, then you can apply that effect to 2 creatures, and if you have a yellow dice in play that has 4 to 6, then you can draw a card. So if you have one of each yellow dice, one that has a 1 through 3 and the other that has a 4 through 6, then you actually get both of these cards' effects. This is another thing that promotes single color play. Although you can't have like 2 that have 1, 2, or 3 on it and get that effect multiple times. It's basically checking if you have dice that meet that requirement is how this card works. And finally, by Emelka, the Shield of Logress Banner. Now, this the Banner card is basically your starting card. It gives you a yellow dice in your pool, and it is one of your starting mana, hence why the symbol is at the top of the card rather than the bottom. This determines what dice you can use to protect the fort in front of it, and it also gives you the ability to play the yellow cards. So it's basically a starting land. It's the basis for a lot of things. These banners, we haven't seen any banners with special effects yet. It will be interesting to see if any come out that like support a particular faction or anything like that. But for now, these are just kind of your basic starting flags. Now we're getting into the green. We have Prismatic King, 5 cost for 5/5. Art is by P Comic. A 5 cost 5/5, which means that there is no doubt that the real card has a special ability. It'll be interesting to see what it is. Although, if it's one that actually relies on having a dice of a different color, that's something that kind of bugs me. Is the reason we came to the conclusion about monocolor is because all of the cards in the deck either benefit from dice that were the same color as it, or from ones that were universally colored. If they had included like one card in the deck that required the dice of a different color to get its boost when it Dragocrosses, that would illustrate right away, aha, that is the benefit of a multicolor deck, and I now get that from this impression. That's how easy it would have been. Anyway, it's Prismatic King. There's no way he doesn't have an ability. A 5/5 for 5 is basically par for something that would have an ability. I imagine he's probably has some sort of leadership ability, like something that benefits others when he attacks. Just speculation. We'll see what it actually is. I could be way off. Up next, number 7 by Pompadour, we have Primeape Javelineer. We have a trademark infringement Javelineer, or who knows? He might not be a violation of the Pokemon. This guy is 5/4 for 4 mana, so it would not surprise me, since his power is above the 4/4 curve we saw of characters with beneficial abilities, that he's actually just going to be a vanilla beater. I'm thinking he's a vanilla beater. I have an example later of a card that I am practically dead certain is a vanilla beater, unless he has some kind of other effect. I mean, we've seen another card that breaks the power curve, and it does have an ability, but it also has a penalty to bring it into play. 5/4 is okay, but honestly, there's also some 6/3 cards in the deck that for the same cost are a bit better because they can guarantee to get over the dice. And Bloodscent Arachnid. This is our creature ambush card. Ambush is a card that you play for 2, and you throw it in front of your fort, and if your opponent tries to attack the fort that has an ambush on it, if the effect to trigger the ambush is satisfied, then you can trigger it. The fact that all ambushes cost the same to play means that you won't like drop points on a really big ambush, and players will know to avoid or try to remove it. In the case of Bloodscent Arachnid, which is drawn by Nutapon, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, sorry if I mispronounced it. What it does is, when a creature in the fort that it's ambushed in front of gets defeated, you can then summon it, meaning that you can immediately throw another soldier onto it. I guess it's drawn by the scent of death, so you can immediately resupply your fort with Bloodscent Arachnid. Not bad for an ambush. There are some ambushes that do better things, including one in this very deck. And finally, our green banner, the Rune Mark of Tir na Nog. It's a starting land, has the icon at the top, provides starts you with 1 green dice. Adds a green dice to your dice pool. Starting land, very basic. Kind of like how it's like very natural, like carved into a rock in the middle of the woods. Now we're going to get into our red. Runic Blacksmith by art by Chris Edge, 6/3 for 4. I would honestly be surprised if he got an effect because he is, again, above the curve. He has 9 points at power 4. Whether he gets an ability or not, he is going to be a very good staple card I can see in red, because at attack power 6, you can plant a die in front of your fort in order to protect it, and it basically blocks that much damage before it's destroyed. Something with an attack power of 6 is guaranteed to bust that open. So a lot of these 6 power cards, I imagine we are going to see lots of play from them. Moving on, we have Wandering Orc. It is basically the red version of the Primeape, at least as far as this goes. Exact same stats, only it's red, and it has the pig nose on it. Now, the pig nose, I actually don't see very often in Western media. I mean, I think the most recent I've seen it are the Kreeball and Lightseekers, but they're technically goblins. This big old really piggy orc, I think, is something that's mostly seen in Japanese, as the orcs that we're used to in America are the ones straight out of World of Warcraft. Moving on. Bone Club Giant by Ben's King. Cost 3, power 4, defense 3. His flavor text is literally smash. So I assume this guy is a vanilla beater, unless he like takes out a cost 1 creature when he comes into play. He is quite obviously probably going to be a vanilla beater. He's above the curve, and he just looks like a big dumb thing you throw at to attack something with, both in card art and in flavor text. So if he's not a vanilla beater, I will be surprised. Hidden Blade. Hidden Blade is same cost as the Bone Club Giant. Aria is our artist on Hidden Blade, and it's basically the same cost, but it's down 2 defense points, and that is because it is a fort break. When one of your fort cards is destroyed, if it has the fort break ability, then it will have some kind of beneficial effect. Sometimes it's a spell you can cast for free. It's basically your damage trigger, your shield trigger, your shield burst, or I think it was called the EX break for the Final Fantasy game. In this case, it allows you to summon it for free, which can be very nice to throw a deterrent to prevent your opponent from trying to attack again. So As far as Fort Break's ability goes, Hidden Blade is pretty good. Hidden Blade can also attack on her own, but at the same time, she can take out a lot of things that would threaten you in the early game. Up next, Harpy Huntress, which is probably my favorite card. It is the card that they gave you to make you understand how Drago crossing works. Harpy Huntress costs 2, 2/2, and the turn you play her, she gets +1/+0, so she becomes a attack 3 endurance 2 creature, and she gets an additional +1/+1 when she's Dragocross with any dice. So first turn she comes out, if you Dragocross with her, like with the dice from a fort you've lost, she becomes a 5/4 for 2 mana on her first turn, and that is really good, and can be a 4/4 for every turn after that. Really nice and aggressive. One of the cards that they showed off that has a dice of a different color is actually another Harpy. It's a 5/5 for 5 that actually basically totally wrecks a fort whenever they do damage to it, but it actually costs a green in order to give it that extra +1/+1. Harpy Huntress, art is by Pompadour, so we have another card by Pompadour. I like the art. It's very it has the obvious Western slant that Bushiroad is obviously going for to try to appeal to an American audience. We'll see how far that gets them. I think I've said it before, if it looks like magic and smells like magic, why not I just play magic? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And our final creature in the starter deck is Goblin Madcap. Cost 1, attack 1, defense 1, the curve for something with an ability, and Goblin Madcap is a chump blocker. You have him block an attack on your opponent's turn, and he basically weakens any of the Dragoshields they've put out by 3, so he would basically cut this thing in half and make it easier to get over your opponent. So very, very basic kind of throwaway blocker. I mean, you can attack with him as well, but honestly, it's probably better to save him to invest in future turns. And now we have Torch. Torch is a spell. It's another spell that benefits from being in a monocolor deck, because what it does is you choose a creature and deal damage to it equal to the number on the dice you currently have in play. Costs 3. It is also a fort break, which means it can be played for free if it is summoned as a fort break, which maybe isn't so beneficial, because in order for this to come out, it means that they would have had to have busted through your die. So if this shows up on your red flag, then that's not very good. But it's another case where you can actually save your dice and throw them onto a creature so that they don't get wrecked by fort break abilities, which can preserve it for the use with Torch. But at the same time, it emphasizes that the monocolor, at least in this case, is beneficial, because it means you can just pick the highest one of the 3 dice you rolled that turn. Same story with Pyroblast. Pyroblast actually does not have a casting cost, and that is because it can only be played as an ambush. And what it does is, it's like Pyroblast, only it does damage equal to a red die to an entire fort. So you could actually wipe out a bunch of monsters with this if you have a nice high red die roll in play. And it doesn't target. I'm seeing like a card on the website that's immune to being targeted, but this thing doesn't target, so it could still possibly take that guy out if he's already withstood a little bit of damage. This is a very, very good ambush, because it's basically Mirror Force when you think about it, with how it operates, in that it can basically fry an opponent's entire fort and keep them from attacking you with it, not to mention leaving it completely defenseless if you get a nice high red, like if it's in a dominant red or mono red deck. And finally, we have the Standard of Taurus, drawn by Lafan. Oh dear, I skipped some artists, didn't I? I apologize. It is, again, a very basic flag, although for some reason they made their banner out of Edward Elric's coat. Oh well. Do what you gotta do. It's another basic flag. Hopefully we'll be seeing some more interesting flags. It would be cool if they had alternate artworks for the flag as more sets came out. Apparently the premiere set is coming out in August, or at least the first couple trial decks are coming out in August, and then the first set's coming out in November. Moving on to the promo cards, these are art promos, like Izarco-Tvash, Born of Magma by Caio Montero. Caio Montero. I don't know if I've heard that name before. But this is, it's a pure art card. It's our promo 01. Because normally it's like half filled with effect text. When it comes into play, you can hurl 6 damage however you want on your opponent's creatures, and when it leaves play, if it's Dragocrossed, I think with a red die, then you can hurl 7 damage around to all of your opponent's creatures as you desire. So you can throw 2 here, 2 there. But in this case, it's a 7 cost 6/6 below par, which explains its ability, although 6 is enough to break most die, so 6 is about as high as you're ever going to need, unless you want something that can destroy some of the more powerful blockers. So it's nice to be able to see and appreciate this artwork, even though, as King Vire mentioned, it is very, very Magic the Gathering in how its artwork looks. Our next promo, with artwork by Ein Lee, is Elven Far Striker. Now, Elven Far Striker looks below par with a cost of 4 and stats of only 2/3, but Elven Far Striker is another multicolor card. What it does is it benefits from every non-green creature you have in play. It gets +1/+1. Sure would have been nice to have had this in the deck in order to appreciate how a multicolor deck would work, and in this case we just get the art card. It is very, very nice art, and I appreciate seeing it, but its ability is technically just one line, kind of like how it is with a lot of these creatures. So I think if they'd had something like Elven Far Striker in the demo deck, or something similar to it, that would have been really nice. Although, something I noticed about the demo deck is they actually made it so that it's impossible to take out a color. Like, if you get your hands on 2 demo decks, you can't, like, take out all the green cards and replace them with white and red yellow and red cards, because there just are not enough cards. You'd have to take out 8 green, but you only have like 6 cards you can put back in without butting up against the rules here. Although I guess if you threw in Izarco and Elven Farsi or Far Striker, despite their lack of abilities, you could carve one out. But anyway, these onto the caravan promos. This is Balteo's Devourer of Hope, with art by designed by Caio Montero and illustration by Amin Naksui. So we have a collab piece here on the artwork here. his ability is he has Assassin Yellow, meaning he can directly attack tapped yellow creatures, and if you Dragocross him with anything, then he taps a yellow creature. So very nice against decks that use yellow creatures. It can help you maybe wipe out some opponents' important commanders. Like there are some cards that have some nice commander effects. Like there's one that if it's Dragocross to the yellow die, everything on your field is considered to be Dragocross to the yellow die. If he can take it out, that's a very useful skill. We'll have to see if black seems to have a lot of direct destruction in it, so it'll be interesting to see if this guy gets some play. And my final card is the Keeper. It is a blue card. Currently, these are the only black and blue cards out, although they should be available in the trial decks. It is the Keeper, and its ability is when the Keeper blocks, you then rest an opposing creature with X attack, where X is equal to her current endurance, which means that if she's Dragocrossed, her endurance becomes 6, so she can rest any of those creatures that would otherwise break through your guard die. So it'll be interesting to see if the Keeper gets some use. So that's kind of my impression of Dragoborne. Like Kingfire said, I'm not as familiar with Bushiroad games to know if it feels very Bushiroad or not. It does feel very Duel Masters, very Magic the Gathering, particularly with the attack and defense and how damage works in this game. We'll have to see. I might pick up a trial deck, might see if I could get Bushiroad to toss me a trial deck or something, if they even do that. I could see if I could get Kingfire on to do some demo play. I've had a couple people ask if we could do demo play. So, if anybody's interested, we could try to go against each other with the demo decks. I'll see if we can get the trial decks and we can go against each other with that, unbox those. It's something I've been working on. It's Doc's Game Club. Believe it or not, somewhere out there is a game store called Doc's Game Club, D-O-K, as in like the last part of my name, and I just could not resist. I'm going to make that my new playlist. I don't know if I'm going to make it a new channel. Maybe if it takes off and I manage to get some more games to show off, I'll make a channel dedicated to Doc's Game Club. But anyway, that is the Dragoborne demo deck. Comments are welcome. Questions are welcome. And until next time, this is Kodak signing off.